Hey, welcome back to the channel. Today I'd like to talk about my 10 favorite tips for barbecuing, and I think I got one in there especially for a pellet grill. So let's jump into them. So number 10, I would say, is to get to know your grill. Find out where the hot spots are, find out how the temperature fluctuates. One side of your grill is going to be different from the other side, and front to back may be different. So certainly get to know your grill and understand how it works. So I think the old adage that if you're looking, you ain't cooking is 100% true. So number 9 for me is to resist that urge to constantly check on it, to constantly look at the bark, to constantly see how it's cooking. So every time you open this grill, you get a massive influx of ambient air and a massive outflow of all your nice hot air that you've put into your barrel here. So especially toward the end of cooks, I struggle with it myself, is hey, let it ride. Okay, it's doing what it's supposed to do, trust it. And that goes back to number 10, is knowing your grill. So number 8 on the list is to prep. So it may sound simplistic, it may sound like an oversight, but certainly that's probably the biggest thing that I would say. I don't know why this isn't number 1 on the list, but that's probably the biggest thing that I would say, is to prep everything you need. So from foil to maybe a dry cooler, to getting your plates and your tongs and just everything ready. So that way when you're putting meat on, or you're taking meat off especially, you don't have this meat that's cooked and ready to go, and now you're scrambling around trying to figure out where to put it, where's your foil. So I actually have this table, I call it my butcher block, and it works out actually really great. It sits out here right next to the barbecue pit, and it's got storage underneath and things like that. I hang my water bottles from it, and this is kind of my prep area. So number 8, definitely get everything prepped and ready to go. So number 7 on the list is to use a digital thermometer, or I guess any thermometer. I actually first started off with this digital thermometer, and the only problem I had with it is I would stick it in my meat and I'd have to wait 10 seconds for it to finally climb up the temperature. And so I then went with this kind of instant read thermometer, and whenever you open it, it'll actually turn on, and it just takes 2 seconds to get a very quick, accurate temperature. So another tip with the thermometer is I use the thermometer to get me 90% there. So I want to know if I'm cooking a brisket and I'm trying to get close to 200 or so, I use a thermometer to get me to 190. Once I get to 190, I stop caring about the temperature, and all I'm doing is using either thermometer and sticking inside the brisket or the pork butt to test for tenderness. So that's what I mean by use the thermometer to get you most of the way there. But that last little percentage, just use the thermometer, just use a probe to test for tenderness, because at the end of the day, once it gets to a safe temperature, who cares about the internal temperature? You want to check for doneness. So you definitely want to clean your grill. You can probably see under there all the nastiness and grime and everything else. If you don't clean your grill, you can actually risk creating a grease fire. You can get a bunch of trash on your meat and things like that. So definitely clean your grill. That is tip number 6. So I think until now, most of the tips that we've given have really applied to all types of grills. This one will be very specific to pellet grills, and that is for pellet management. So when you're doing cooks and things like that, you always want to make sure you are using whatever flavor works best for you, whatever flavor best complements the food you're cooking. And a big tip, and you can take it from me personally, you never want to run out of pellets for an overnight cook. It just turns out to ruin your day and your evening, and so that all goes into pellet management. So number 4 on the list is tongs and plates. So a big thing when cooking, especially things like chicken and pork, is to use different tongs for your raw meat and a new set of tongs and plates for your cooked meat. So it may not seem like a very important thing, but when you're cooking food, like I said, especially chicken and pork, and serving it to your family, you want to make sure that the meat is fully cooked, and you want to make sure that you're not cross-contaminating your good, nice, clean, cooked food and serving that to your family. So number 3 tip is to make sure you're using heavy-duty foil. So my wife likes this kind of shorter, thinner foil for wrapping stuff up, putting it in the fridge or whatever. I don't think you'll ever see me using this stuff, even for throwing things into the freezer. I just prefer this heavy-duty foil. If you're wrapping meat, if you're wrapping ribs or brisket, throwing them in a cooler, your leftovers, wrapping them up, throwing them in the fridge, whatever you're using, I just prefer this heavy-duty stuff that's not going to tear on me. I think they have one that's called like barbecue foil, and I don't notice a difference between the heavy-duty stuff and the barbecue stuff, although I think the barbecue foil is a little bit more expensive. So up to you guys, but I would just certainly stick with the heavy-duty stuff. So number 2 on the list is to plan appropriately. This could probably fall under number 8, which is prepping, but I think it deserves kind of its own section here. And the biggest thing for me for planning a cook is to plan the cook, plan the prep, plan the rest time. So a lot of people don't really factor in the rest time into their overall planning. And for larger cuts of meat like brisket and pork butt, things like that, planning rest time is vital. So for me personally, I try to plan for about a 2-hour rest on a brisket and a 1-hour minimum. I will not cut a brisket before it rests for 1 hour. So those are kind of the things you need to plan for. Now brisket can stay in a dry cooler for 5, 6, 7 hours. So you have a lot of leeway on that back end, but not as much on the front end when you're trying to cook for dinner or you have friends coming over. So I think definitely the last thing to consider when using a pellet grill, when using a Traeger, when using a Rectech, when using whatever you're using, a charcoal grill, stick burner, electric smoker. I think the biggest thing that I've learned in all of this grilling, barbecuing, smoking is to do it your way. So my family likes certain things, my wife likes certain things, certain ways, and that's what I try to cater to. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll use YouTube, I'll get some good ideas, some tips and tricks on cooking different things. But at the end of the day, I'm cooking for me and my family. Choose what's right for you guys and piss on what anybody else says is kind of where I'm at. I got to keep my family happy, especially my wife. And other than that, let the keyboard heroes on the internet and everybody else who gives you a hard time about how you cook steaks or what type of grill you use or anything, let them do their thing. It's starting to rain on me. But if you like this kind of stuff, make sure to subscribe to the channel. I'm gonna post this video, and my next cook will be beef short ribs, sometimes called dinosaur bones or dinosaur ribs. So if you're interested in that, stick around and we'll get those up for our next video. Thanks everybody.